So I'm Blaine Mooers. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center here in Oklahoma City. And the title of my talk is Snippets in Jupyter Notebooks. So I'm a part-time programmer. My main job is to study the structures of proteins and nucleic acids. And this is an outline of our workflow. What we do is purify proteins and grow crystals of them. We put them in an X-ray diffraction instrument. We collect a diffraction pattern. We then determine the structure of the protein. This is a ribbon model of one protein with and then in this process we are fitting electron density maps. And in the middle is a drug molecule which is used in cancer therapy. And then on the right is a comparison of several protein structures that have been overlaid, including this drug molecule and another drug molecule that is able to bind to a mutant protein that, whereas the other can't. And by doing this structural analysis, we can develop a structural explanation as to why that is. All these steps involve computers. They involve the use of computer programs that were developed by other people 1 to 4 decades ago. Much of the code was originally written in Fortran and then translated into C and C++, and now it's been wrapped by Python, and so we have the ability to use Python to deal with edge cases. Now, as a part-time programmer, an occasional programmer, I suffer from the forgetting curve phenomenon, which was first documented by Hermann Ebbinghaus, a German psychologist, and he published a book about this in 1885. He found that over time, the recall of new information declines approximately as a negative exponential. And so I found myself solving a problem, maybe spending several hours developing a function to solve that problem, only to discover that 5 years ago I'd solved a similar problem and had developed a function that worked, and I'd forgotten all about that function. Now I realize real programmers collect such functions in a my functions script file and then import that file as a module. But a sort of advanced approach for beginning programmers to intermediate programmers, I think snippets might be at least a more attractive and accessible approach. So not only to help myself, these snippets can be useful for training people in my laboratory, for training students, for giving day-long workshops on advanced topics, and because they are, you get this rather rapid gratification from being able to select a snippet from a pull down, this might entice some of my colleagues to adopt the use of Jupyter Notebooks. Remarkably, my field has yet to really widely adopt Jupyter Notebooks, and I think they just haven't caught on to how powerful they are. So these can, of course, be shared on GitHub. There's, as of last August, I think there was something like 2.5 million Jupyter Notebooks on GitHub. So I have been working on a project that involves developing a snippet library for the molecular graphics program called PyMol. It has its own command language, and I've been developing this snippet library for a large number of text editors to encourage the use of the library. And in the process, I've learned a bit about text editors and what the sort of the features are that I like. And so I've listed those features here. My favorite is the tab trigger, where you just enter the start of the name of a snippet, hit tab, and if you have autocompletion, you'll get the snippet inserted into your file. Some programs like Visual Studio Code will provide a preview of the snippet as well as a description of the snippet, and that's super handy. So you can check out that snippet before committing to inserting it. And another feature I find very valuable especially for these PyMol snippets, which can be quite long and have many parameters that have to be adjusted, is tab stops. Tab stops allow you to advance through the snippet and edit parameter values. And if these are mirrored you can change the first occurrence of a parameter value, and that change will get propagated to other identical sites. Having access to the snippets through a pull-down menu is a nice extra feature in terms of being able to get an overview of all the snippets that are available, and so it's a powerful reminder of what's available. Many snippet libraries provide for detection of the file type through the file extension, the so-called scope, and the better libraries have simple syntax for adding new snippets as well as for adding libraries of snippets. For the Jupyter Notebook, I've highlighted in bold only the two features that are available that support snippets. So you might say that the support for snippets is still somewhat primitive in Jupyter Notebooks. To enable these, you need to install the notebook extensions. These are not available by default, and the instructions for doing so are available online. If you succeed in doing so, you will have a new tab that shows up when you open up the home page upon firing up a Jupyter Notebook. So if you click on that tab, you'll get a list of all the available notebook extensions. There's well over 100 available. To activate them, you simply check a box. So I've checked the Snippets and Snippets menu. These are two separate, independent notebook extensions. The Snippets one is primitive in comparison to what you can do with the Snippets menu. I'll go over the Snippets one first. So when you click on the, say, Snippets bar here, you will, and that would highlight in dark blue as over here, you get displayed below a lot of information about that notebook extension. And so in this case, there's a little movie that demonstrates the insertion of some code fragments, which are available through this snippet menu, which is on the toolbar. To add snippets, you edit a file that on the Mac is stored in the library under Jupyter Notebook Extensions, Snippets, and it's this snippets.json file. And the snippets are set up, and obviously they're written in JavaScript. They're set up like a Python dict, in that you have the name and then the name of the snippet. Code is mapped to, is a key for obviously the text that's inserted. So it's listed as a list of strings. And I've tried to play around with creating additional snippet menu items, and I haven't had much luck with that, nor have I, but I haven't played with nesting these. That should be possible. However, there's stronger support for that in the Snippets menu notebook extension shown here. So when you activate this, you get this Snippets menu added to the menu bar above this toolbar. And if by default there's or you can enable a number of snippet libraries to be activated, and they'll show up. So in this case, we've clicked on the SciPy menu. It has a submenu, and if you click on physical mathematical constants, that leads to yet another submenu. And then under mathematical constants, we get yet this other submenu. And then you can see these snippets, which are listed. These are mathematical constants. The symbol has been rendered with LaTeX on the fly using MathJax. And so you can, so this has already been prepared and available for you. You can augment this menu, as I'll show in a minute. So I'm not a huge fan of such a long cascade of menus. And I'll get back how I dealt with that in a second. This shows how you would enable different the snippet libraries for various modules in the scientific computing suite. And shown here are that complete suite, as well as my favorite snippets. So I'm developing a set, and they can be displayed below under this single menu, or alternatively, to cut down at least on one layer in this hierarchy of cascading menus, you can have these displayed as independent menus, as I've shown here. So BDA, that stands for Bayesian Data Analysis. EQs for equations. I have LaTeX typeset equations. So it's nice to be able to recycle those. It can take a lot of time initially to set those up. And so that's just one display. But actually, I have a fair number of these. And I've zoomed in on this particular one. So BDA EQ, this is the menu that shows up below. I've selected one snippet here. Before double-clicking on it to get it inserted into the cell, I get a preview of the LaTeX code, shown here. And in this snippet name, you can include the LaTeX code as an inline equation, so that gets typeset automatically. So you can have a several layers, one level of preview of what the equation looks like. If you can't figure it out from this, if you don't remember what it's about from the snippet name. So I've zoomed out, and so you can see a more complete collection of these menus and more of the equations in this particular menu. Shown here is a rendered equation, and then below it is the code when the cell is still a code cell before I've changed it to a markdown cell, and I've run this particular cell to render the equation. So to summarize, snippets are available in Jupyter Notebooks through the Snippets notebook extension and the Snippets menu notebook extension. You can go about customizing the arrangement of these menus. You can get a preview of the code, and you can get also a preview of the equations rendered. What's missing at this point in time is our tab triggers and tab stops. So I'd like to acknowledge the sources of external stimulation that I get on campus. We have a statistical computing users group, and we also have a Python workshop group that meets once a month. And my research is funded, in terms of doing structured determinations, funded by the Presbyterian Health Foundation, NSF, and I have I'm part of a NIH-funded project called Oklahoma Cobra in Structural Biology. And last fall, I won a fellowship from a Warren Delano Memorial PyMol Open Source Fellowship to develop this library of snippets for PyMol. So I'll be happy to take any questions or suggestions. Yes, Kimberly? The question is, can I set up a hotkey to get like a equation or any other snippet? And I'm not aware of being able to do that. That would be wonderful. Good question. So one sort of embellishment I've thought of that I didn't demonstrate here is with the LaTeX equations, you could comment out multiple lines and include things like a index key, a caption, a citation, a reference to a source, and you could have that information in the library, and then you could uncomment whatever components you wanted to include them in the notebook, or you could keep them around for later use if you decide to move the LaTeX code out into a LaTeX document and then work on it further. Okay. Great. Thank you.